What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy P. Skip. Welcome to the best half hour of your entire Tuesday. You know what time it is. It's time to get into his court. My squad with me, T-Mac.
Hola.
Chili Will.
Gracias, amigo.
Let's do this. So listen, we've been out of touch, but we're back. And we got a lot to talk about. So many things have been happening in the news, and it's good just to get the proper perspective. Romans chapter 13, verse 7 says this: render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor is due. Now, I said that because we recently had the passing of number 6, the great Bill Russell. And here's a man who in 13 years, 13 seasons, won 11 championships and is never talked about as being the GOAT, which for me, I don't understand. Give this man his due. Honestly, they should eliminate the number 6 anymore. They should just say, nobody else can have this number 6. They need to retire it across the league, because what he was able to do, and he wasn't just a basketball player. Bill Russell was also a social activist. And he was majorly involved in a lot of the stuff that Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, even I think Kareem was involved with some of it. But most of them were involved with a lot of social activists and equality. And to just overlook him as the GOAT is beyond fathomable for me. Will, where do you stand with this?
I agree with you 110% on the number 6 should no longer be worn by any player in the National Basketball Association. It should be retired like Jackie Robinson across the board. Let's just start there. All right. As far as his contribution to basketball, probably no one has contributed as much to the growth and the mainstreaming of the sport as Bill Russell has. Not only as a player and an 11-time champion, as a coach, won a few championships as a coach, and as an activist and civil rights leader. And not only that, he has been the ultimate mentor for all NBA players since he retired. I mean, he even mentored Kobe Bryant. He even mentored Paul Pierce. I mean, he mentored all the way until he couldn't mentor no more. Some of the stories that came out of his passing that people was telling, it was just some tremendous stories. But one of the stories I must say that just blew my mind. Greg Anthony said that the year that Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points, that year, Bill Russell was voted MVP of the National Basketball Association, but he wasn't all MVP. He wasn't all NBA. He wasn't an all NBA selection, even though he was the MVP of the league. That is unbelievable to me.
Unbelievable. That's bananas.
Yeah. So I mean, Bill Russell was one of those guys who they'd never talk about him as the GOAT, and I think he should be talked about as the GOAT. No one's going to win 11 championships in any sport. Nobody. So
let alone 11 in 13 years.
In 13 years. So, may he rest in peace. Thank him. I played basketball. If we talk about his pro career, he won 2 championships as a collegiate.
Right.
So I just thank him for the opportunity that I had with basketball. I mean, I'm not a pro. I didn't go to the pros, but I got a free education. And with that education, I was able to provide a good quality of life for me and my family. And all that goes back to the contributions that Bill Russell and people like Bill Russell made and sacrifices they made way back in the day. So, hats off to him. May God bless him. And bless his family, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, I echo everything that,
you all have said, and a lot of the things that Will has just delineated about, his championship pedigree, it's, second to none. It speaks for itself. I think that one of the reasons why he hasn't been in the GOAT competition or conversation, I should say, is not because of the championships. I think that the GOAT obviously goes more than just championships, because if we're going by championships, he is the winner. Period.
Right.
He had rings for every one of his fingers and a toe. So if that's the sole criteria, it is a wrap. I think the other thing, though, is that he had some limitations as far as his skill set. But what those things he lacked in individual skill set, he more than made up for by being the consummate and ultimate team player. What Bill Russell to me stands for on the basketball court is, hey, I can not necessarily have to be the centerpiece, but my contribution can be the most important contribution to what we do. His career averages of 15 points and 22.5 rebounds. Those rebounds are second only to Will Chamberlain.
Let's round it off to 23.
Yes, sir. Round up to 23. Right. Second, I only brought that specificity in because he was second only all time to Wilt Chamberlain, whose average was 22.9. So you have a 0.4 differential. So phenomenal there. The championships that he's won. And I think the bigger thing is I've gotten older and have become, a father, a husband, and one who in my own right tries to do the right thing and carry myself in a certain kind of way, even in adverse situations. His social construct, social justice, equity, all those things. Remember, he was in Boston. Boston and Milwaukee all my life have gone kind of back and forth as being noted as being two of the most segregated cities in these United States. One would say Milwaukee is the most segregated. Others would say Boston. I've heard that all my life, that those two are near the top. So whichever one you want to put them in, they're top two across the board. He was in Boston as a Black man doing what he did. And not only did he stand as a phenomenal athlete, he really also spoke out against injustices during that time. And he didn't do it, like everybody else did it. He did it in a way that maintained his grace, his dignity, and his manhood. And he did it in such a way, he became the first African-American coach in the NBA.
Well, any pro sport.
Thank you for that. Any pro sport. I mean, so that speaks to not just his basketball ability and acumen, but also who he is, his personal disposition as a man. And as Carter G. Woodson once said in The Miseducation of the Negro, that any Black man that is going on to aspire, he was talking about politicians, but this is applicable, I think, here in any leadership position. He said that any Black man that is aspiring to be a politician or a leader must remember that he is a man first. And everybody that came across Bill Russell, those that had the pleasure of meeting him in person and those that were able to view him from afar through TV, they could not deny that that was a man first. And so to be able to do what he did, accomplish what he accomplished, and make the social impact that he did while keeping his manhood intact, I think that probably might be the greatest accomplishment that he's done, above and beyond all the hardware that he has collected. So we certainly lost a great one. We certainly lost a man that was very, very respectable and respectful, one that can be emulated. And I believe that in sports, maybe even transcending sports, that as a man who's able to see different things and impact those different things, I think Bill Russell is the epitome, of that. And I appreciate his life, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, to add to just his lore, I saw an interview with him and Tim Duncan, and Bill walks up to him and says, "Hey, Six," and Tim Duncan says, "I only got this number because you wear it."
Wow.
You wore it. That's why I have this number 6.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So the impact that he made on the generations, like you said, will be under him, and still made all the way until his passing. Some of everybody, because we also got to remember Bill was also a TV announcer. He used to do NBA games back in the day. So he's had his hands in the NBA since he's been in the NBA.
In virtually every aspect.
Every aspect, and so, and I think we don't credit enough of the fact that he was an African American coaching in Boston.
Yes, sir.
Coaching in Boston. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And the first, you know, which says a lot about who Red Auerbach is too.
And
Facts.
that's what I want to touch on. You got to give Red Auerbach credit because most people think Red Auerbach is Irish.
Mm,
Most people think that. Red
Yeah, he's
Auerbach
Jewish.
he's Jewish.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
And for a Jewish man and a black man to make the decisions and impact that they made, because they had to trust and rely on each other.
exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to give Red Auerbach a lot of credit for being a man, because you know that was not popular what he was doing in Boston, and he was doing it as a Jewish person. And you know, Jewish people, you know, is a lot of America, you know, a lot of the country, a lot of the world, you know, have their differences with Jewish people for whatever reason. So Red Auerbach deserves a lot of credit for actually being a man enough to say, you know what, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. That's an excellent point, Will. And I think
Absolutely.
that what Red Auerbach, you know, to his credit in doing that, he does deserve a whole lot. I'm sure he got a lot of blowback and
Oh
had
my
to really
God.
probably have some titanium backbone
Yes.
to still say, I'm doing this anyway. But I think that relationship that the two of them had, that obviously had mutual respect, is a microcosm, low key, of the Jewish community and Black community's relationship throughout the years. What has been happening is in popular media, they try to pit Jewish folks against Black folks. You had things like, you know, the Crown Heights situation back when Reverend Al and some other things in the, let's say, recording industry, some isolated incidents. And, you know, nothing is always a utopia. But on the whole, the Jewish community and the Black community share a rich history of cooperation. Back when the signs that used to say no dogs allowed, and they also said no Negroes allowed, oftentimes them same signs said no Jews allowed as well. Dr. Martin Luther King, when he was doing the civil rights piece, there was a Jewish theologian that was with him, I think his name was Theodore Heschel, who walked arm in arm with him. And if we recall, during the movie Mississippi Burning, talking about the freedom riders that were killed in Mississippi, those 3 people, 2 of those 3 were Jewish men. So we've always kind of, you know, rolled together. There's just been some fissures that outside forces have tried to drive a wedge between our communities. But that example between Red Auerbach and Bill Russell, based on, hey, I see you as a man who's worthy, a man of quality, a man of respect, and the one deserving of opportunity. I got the power to give it. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And we're gonna walk this road together, I think is an example of the best of what the relationships can be, and us talking about that legacy now can demonstrate what the impact can be as well. Hopefully, we can have more of these kind of things resurfacing and getting as much publicity as they ought to get, as opposed to if it bleeds, it leads, that some of the media that we have right now today.
Hey, can I just piggyback on that for a second? And the Black and Jewish relationship historically and currently. If you go into most major metropolitan areas in the United States, you will see that the Jewish community and the Black community has close proximities to each other.
Yeah.
Hence, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Sherman Park area.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
I mean, Skip, you and I live in Sherman Park, and
Right.
we basically live in the Jewish community.
Had Jewish neighbors.
Jewish neighbors. I mean,
Right
we
next
were
to
the minorities over there, but
Right.
not at one point that we feel threatened or unwelcome or
Right.
uncomfortable, and nor did they. And I think that right there, to this day, Tim, you spoke on it, is something that has been historically true, and a lot of people don't want to see the, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't want to.
Collaboration or connection.
They don't want to see that collaboration, and they don't want to see, because really, and I've said this, you know, my former career as an elected official, I've said this: the best community in the in Milwaukee, in the city of Milwaukee, was the Sherman Park area because of its diversity. Because even within that community, which I represented, which has the biggest Jewish population in the city of Milwaukee, it also has a very big LBGT community too within Sherman Park. A lot of people don't know that. So the diversity of Sherman Park is a microcosm of the historic relationship between minority groups.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Who knew that they get a history lesson during all of this? Talk about sports.
Into its courts, Doc. You never
That's
know
it,
what you
man.
might get.
That's
It's like
it.
a box of chocolates.
That's it. You never know what you're gonna get. So moving on, listen, Brittany Griner got 9 years in a Russian prison for carrying drug paraphernalia and trying to leave with it. And I knew, but I was hoping it wasn't gonna happen, but I knew they were gonna stick it to her because they were just taking too long to make any decision about what they were gonna do with her. And I knew the longer they had her, the longer they were gonna keep her. And so, you know, the thing that I think she made the mistake on was saying it wasn't intentional. And they're going, wait, you flat lying. It was in your bag. You meant to bring that home. That was in your carry-on. You meant to bring that home. So you didn't put it in your shipped bag. You put it in your carry-on, which made them go, you know, you intent. And she said, I didn't mean to do it. You mean to tell me you didn't mean to put that oil in your bag? You know, and that's the way Russia looked at it. And the thing that we always have to keep in mind, what the rules are in America are just American rules. Everywhere else, you abide by their rules. And whatever they say is the penalty for you making a mistake, like she said, your mistake cost you your WNBA career. And the thing about them is, and so many people have said it, they told you to get out earlier. They told you to get out earlier. And you stayed in there longer than you should have. And so I feel for her. I do. I feel for her because I remember listening to this guy talking about his time in the penitentiary. And he was a newcomer and he was in with an old schooler, and the old schooler asked him the question. He said, how long? And he's, you know, if you're in prison, you don't ask nobody the time, how much time they got, because they don't want to talk about that. So he ignored him. He said, man, I just want to do my time, leave me alone. So the next day, the old timer asked him again. The lifer asked him, how long? He said, man, you know you don't ask nobody that question in prison. That ain't your business. So finally, he asked him a third time. He said, how long? He said, what? What do you want to know? Well, how much time I got to do? What do you want to know? He said, no, my question is, how long did it take you to make the decision that will cost you this time?
Wow.
So he said, we was in and out in 3 minutes. So 3 minutes changed your life forever. And this is, to me, the same situation. Brittany, did you count up the cost? Or are you just so enamored by, I gotta have this oil with me? Did you not think that this could cost you 9 years of your life for 3 ounces? For 3 ounces of oil. And that's the piece where, to our young kids, our younger audience, y'all gotta start thinking what these decisions you're making and what they're gonna cost you on the long term, not just the short term, but the long term. You gotta start thinking about your future and not just your present. Tim, I'll let you go now.
Excellent. I mean, you bring up excellent points. And I think that the cost counting either was not done by Brittany or she miscalculated in her counting. I think she also had, you know, some level of, I don't want to sound harsh, maybe some incompetence in her legal counsel, because she was advised to plead guilty to the charges and that the attorneys would ask for leniency. And given everything that was leading up to it, like you talked about the time that it took for them to even render some sort of hearing or even give her a hearing, because they kept pushing that even back before she even had a hearing, it let me know that, hey, she might get, the book thrown at her. I think some other factors in this particular situation is that, Russia has had an antagonistic relationship with America, kind of historically over the last 50 years or so, and even has been kicked back up with this recent, war with Ukraine, with America, at least the State Department, taking the side of Ukraine. Another factor that America has done, going back to at least the Obama years and administration, was when they do the foreign aid and foreign engagement with other State Departments, there is an infusion of an acceptance, tolerance, almost a promotion of LGBTQ types of policies, and they tie that to the money. Russia has been well known to not be for any of that kind of stuff. We ain't America. We ain't liberal like that. We're old school. We are conservative, and we believe man with woman, woman with man, and all that other stuff. We don't go for that, particularly not you forcing it down our throats. So in addition to Brittany Griner being a high profile individual, there are other folks that are being held that are Americans in Russian prisons, but they might not have the same bargaining chip or leverage that she has, even though she's not the biggest star. If they wanted to stick it to America, that, is part of the mix as well. They also wanted to stick it to America by saying, hey, you ain't gonna force your cultural norms on us either, and we will make an example of this young lady. The final piece is that, when we talk about Black people throughout the diaspora of the world, there has been demonstrated double standards when Black people do an offense, no matter how minor, or even not even doing an offense, being falsely accused, i.e. Emmett Till, etc., that we get the shorter end of the stick, and if it comes to punishment, sometimes the longer punishment. There was a young lady who was a white young lady named Audrey Lorber, who similarly about a year or so ago went to Russia and tried to smuggle some things out. She had 19 grams of marijuana. 5 months before she went, America had issued a travel warning for 35 countries, including Russia, saying, hey, watch out, some stuff is getting kind of hot over there. Matter of fact, kidnapping is also a possibility. She went there on vacation, was found guilty, was sentenced to 2 months for 19 grams. Allegedly, Brittany only had less than a gram and got her 9 years. So one, that you do the crime, do the time, no matter how small it is. We understand that hardcore piece, but you also have reasonable accommodations. If you have been lenient with this situation in times past, I expect that same leniency, because that is what the culture is. And culture is what is the collective habitual behavior in this kind of instance. She didn't get that. Unfortunately for her, she might have been a victim of circumstances.
Right.
And right now, there allegedly is some conversation about, hey, we're going to sentence her to this harsh penalty because that helps us, Russia, negotiate with America. So President Biden is giving some conversation about, we'll do some exchanges. We'll exchange some Russian spies for Brittany Griner if you guys let her go. Maybe that was why they did such a heavy penalty. Unfortunately for her, she's definitely caught in the crosshairs of it. And we will see how it plays out, but let this be a word to the wise that when you are doing different things, you really have to count up that cost, and you want to put yourself in the best position to be as successful as possible. And everybody, takes risks. Obviously, some penalties for risks being taken have more severity than others, but what we want to be able to do is calculate the risk as best as possible. And if it seems like the ends do not justify the means, some risks may not be worth taking.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That's what that is. Brittany Griner was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Right.
That's what she was. Pastor Skip, you mentioned that they gave a warning to people to get the heck out. And this impacts me in a lot of ways. Number one, you guys know that Arike Ogumawale, that's my girl. Right. I'm a huge fan of hers, her family, and so on and so forth. She was in Russia also.
Right.
And she was able to get out.
Right.
And when all this was going on with the invasion of
Ukraine.
Ukraine. I was real concerned. You know, I text her and she texts me back that she's making moves. She's going to get out. And lo and behold, she was able to get out. And at that point, I was kind of relieved because actually I didn't know Brittany Griner was over there. It's actually Ulrike had another teammate that plays in the WNBA who was on her team in Russia who also got out. So I was happy about that. And then when I found out what went on with Brittany Griner, you know, probably like most Americans, we thinking like, well, you know, the guy that's on the cover of Forbes magazine is for marijuana sales. I mean, he owned dispensaries. Right. So, you know, the whole United States has changed based, you know, about marijuana and cannabis. And, you know, right at the corner of my house, I can go down the street and they got signs in the window about cannabis. You know, so the whole thing has changed. But to Tim's point, that's America.
Exactly.
That's America. The whole idea of us forcing our culture on the Russian people, be it sexual culture or recreational culture or drug culture. That's something that they're saying that no, we're standing firm on this. You guys can do how you want on your shores, but when you come to our shores, this is how we do it. And Brittany Griner found herself in a really bad situation, and she wound up being a chess piece in a big political chess game, unfortunately. The thing that I have probably the biggest problem with for me, and this is me being naive as an American citizen, is that the punishment don't fit the crime.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It don't fit the crime.
Right.
Brittany Griner wasn't trying to sell nobody no dope. She wasn't trying to set up shop and have, you know, like in America, we got some kind of distribution ring. She wasn't doing all that. You know, I don't know if she smoked pot or not or whatever, but whatever it was for personal use. It was not for profit.
Right. Right.
And for them to give her this type of sentence for something that she had for personal use does not fit the crime at all. She hasn't harmed anyone. She hasn't endangered anyone. She hasn't killed anyone. She hasn't taken anything from anyone. She hasn't done anything to any individual on planet Earth. And for her to get 9 years for this, the punishment does not fit the crime. And just let me just add this to that. I'm an American citizen. I'm very naive, but anybody who's looking at this, I mean, the thing that comes to my mind that everybody who's looking at this, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. You don't cut somebody's hand off because they stole a pack of cigarettes. That ain't what you do. Everybody know that's wrong. The thing that frustrates me the most is that in a lot of situations, in a lot of instances, European American males get to be wrong as can be. And there's no one who can do anything about it. That's the part that frustrates me the most. Everybody who's looking at this know this wrong, but no one can do anything about it. And that's a frustration, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah, but to add to that though, Will, we also have to take our Western mindset off of this because they ain't the Western. They ain't America.
Well, that's why I qualified my statements by saying
right.
I'm an American citizen. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the biggest issue is we're hearing. But anyway, meet us right back here, y'all.
Joy FM.
Right. Listen, Joy 1340 98.7